What's up, motherfuckers? It's the hater back again, motherfuckers. Oh, man. I hope everyone had some good holidays. I had some good ones. I feel refreshed and energized like never before. So now we're going to talk about something that's relatively serious. I mean, obviously we're going to joke around and make fun of it, but something that really is a problem. Like it's gotten to the point where it's a problem. And this is the total pussification of everything, right? We're going to talk about it in the context of wrestling, so some of you can understand, because a lot of you don't care about anything else other than wrestling, you understand me? But there is a big problem. There's a big social change. One might even call it a social agenda happening, right? That has subtly and slowly led to people becoming complete pussies. Now, this has crept up on us, and I have mentioned some of this in another video, but that was before the reboot, motherfuckers, so you can suck it, yeah? It has crept up upon us little by little, slowly, here and there, motherfuckers, but it's all part of the same thing. Now, before I continue, I just want to say that I'm not here saying, like, you know, if you're someone that has some sort of mental condition or whatever the fuck they're called now, like depression, all that stuff. I'm not saying that you're necessarily a pussy. You know what I mean? Of course not, right? Some people actually have problems. You know what I mean? Oh, also, before we forget, we have 2 new subscribers. I don't know if I mentioned this guy yesterday. Juan Garza, motherfuckers. Juan Garza. He must be related to Humberto Carrillo or Angel Garza. Let's hope not. And Chris Wilfong. Chris Wilfong. Welcome, motherfuckers. So, yeah, back to what we were saying, right? There's a huge, huge issue, right? And it's seeped into wrestling as well. But there's this huge lost art of being a man. It's gone, motherfuckers. It's over, right? Now, as you might see in my last video, where I put a picture up of Braun Strowman dressed like a fucking elf, right? This is a grown man. He's like jacked, does steroids, has tattoos, has a beard, has no character, and is now a fucking elf because it's Christmas or whatever, right? And to note, in that picture, he's doing the cuck face, as I like to call it, with a stupid ass, like, wide open mouth smile, right? Like, looking like a cuck. I don't know how you could take someone like that 6'8" and like 330 pounds, whatever Braun Strowman is, and make him look like a cuck, like a pussy, man. So anyway, you have to try really hard. But anyways, this video isn't really about Braun Strowman. It's more about 3 things. The general topic of complete pussification and this idea of like, oh, I have feelings, please don't hurt them, right? And 2 examples of that with Mauro Ranallo and the young Cucks, all right? Now let's get to it. Let's start with Mauro, right? This guy, just look at him, man. This guy screams douchebag pussy if you just look at his face. Now, this is colored by my perception of him because I don't like him anymore. I never really thought he was the greatest or anything like that, but I sure as shit don't like him anymore, motherfuckers. You know, there was a lot of talk about, oh, Bill DeMott. Bill DeMott was a bully. JBL, oh, he's a bully, right? I saw an interview with Enzo Amore. Remember Enzo Amore, motherfuckers, right? And he said, he was like, yo, I trained under Bill DeMott, right? He's like, was he like a tough guy? Was he this? Was he that? He's like, maybe he was, right? He's like, but have you heard me complain about it once? Have you heard me he's like, that's just how it was, man. Have you heard me complain about it once? And I remembered almost immediately, Judas Messias, not Judas Messias. What the fuck's this guy's name? He's Luchasaurus now. Judas Devlin, I think it was, back in the day. He was signed to FCW, and he was one of the people that was like, oh, Bill DeMott, like, yelled at me one too many times, man. This guy, like, never played sports in his life. Like, a coach is gonna yell. That's just what it is, man. It builds backbone, right? If anyone here has done any kind of sport, right, or has had any experience with someone superior to you telling you how to do something, it oftentimes involves yelling. And it oftentimes makes you better at that thing. Now, people are like, oh, well, I don't want to learn like that. I want to learn by someone holding my hand and guiding me through it. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? If a coach has like 100 people to guide, he's not going to focus on you, you pussy, right? He's going to tell you, get the fuck out of here. I'm going to like focus on Enzo Amore, and he's going to debut on NXT, and you're going to have to put on a dinosaur mask and go become Luchasaurus in AEW with all the cucks. You understand me? That's how that goes down. Like, just think about the difference in attitude between an Enzo Amore and all these people who are like, build him up, slap me once. Shut up, just take it. You know, whatever happened to taking it, man? Like, seriously, like, I mean this seriously. Whatever happened to just taking some abuse? You know? Now, of course, motherfucks, I'm not saying if someone beats the shit out of you, you just sit there and you, like, take it. No. Fight back, obviously. Do the things you need to do. But the facts are what they are. And the facts dictate that people like that have no place in a sport or any kind of entertainment that is high in testosterone, motherfuckers. But the problem is that gatekeepers like Bill DeMott and JBL have been ousted by the company or have been relegated to different roles, right? Or have been told, hey man, you need to calm down, like don't bully someone, right? JBL, like people like JBL serve a purpose in life. Bullies serve a purpose in life. Now, of course, being a grown man like JBL and being a bully, I mean, there's something to be said about that. It's like, come on, dude, grow up. You know what? Are you like still picking on people? But the truth is what the truth is. These things have a role. When you take out JBL, you let in the Mauros, motherfuckers. You let in the Mauros. And when you take out Bill DeMott, you let in the Luchasauruses. And this can be evidenced by the change in fans. I mean, the general cultural shift of like everyone be like nice to someone. Even if you don't like someone, you have to be nice to them, you know? It's the most ridiculous thing. Why can't I hate you? If I want to hate you, why can't I hate you, man? Let me hate you. Like, as long as you don't hurt anybody or discriminate on anybody, I don't give a rat's ass if you hate me for my race, my ethnicity, anything. You can hate me all you want. I don't care. Don't give a fuck. Just don't discriminate against me and don't hurt me, please. That's all I ask for. Now, this has been taken to a level now where there was a fan a few years ago. It went viral. He was a fan at some like WWE show. It was this like bald neck beard, and he had a shirt on that said JBL bullied me. And they were like, all right, kid, get the fuck out of the audience, right? And then he left, and like people started clapping for him as if he was this incredible warrior. Like back in the day, we used to call that a snitch. You know what I mean? Like a little tattletale pussy boy. You know, he's just like, oh, JBL, he bullied me. Oh, like, let's all point to the bully and make him feel bad. Shut up, snitch. You know, just stand up for yourself, right? And that's the thing. Like, look at Joey Styles, right? The legend goes that Joey Styles knocked out JBL, right? Which I actually believe because JBL was probably drunk as shit, and Joey Styles got a good one in. Good for him, you know. Like he stood up for himself, and then he wasn't picked on anymore. That's just real, man. If you stand up for yourself, people aren't gonna pick on you because nobody wants to be punched in the face. You understand what I'm saying? Like if a bully's picking on you at school, right, and you punch him in the face, you might punch him once, and he might punch you 30 times, but you punched him once. And tomorrow, he'll punch you 30 times, and you'll punch him twice. And then eventually, he'll punch you 30 times, you'll punch him 15 times. And then eventually, he'll be like, oh, hold on a second, I'll go pick on that guy who doesn't punch me once. You know? And that's what happened, right? But because we have gotten rid of the JBLs and the Bill DeMotts, we have now found ourselves in a scenario where people are complaining and crying about things on Twitter, right? Mauro Ranallo is like the first of these mistakes, right? He came in there, right? And he's a good announcer, man. Like I've heard him in other sports, like in boxing and things like that. He's a good announcer, don't get me wrong. But he's a guy that you have to walk around. You know, you have to plan your company like around him. You know what I'm saying? Like he has to be pandered to. He has to be catered to. I honestly can't even believe that there are people out there that defend Mauro Ranallo, right? Okay, fine. JBL bullied him. I don't remember what JBL did because it just kind of went too fast because the focus wasn't like it never is now on what people do. It's about how other people feel about it. So I don't recall what JBL did, but I remember the story being like fire JBL. He yelled at Mauro and Mauro's a better announcer. Meh. First of all, that's not necessarily true. I think JBL's a great announcer, but even if Mauro was the better announcer, the answer here isn't fire someone because Mauro Ranallo got offended. And the justification was, oh, Mauro's better than JBL, so fire JBL, right? All right, great. But then what happens? Then you find yourself in a scenario where the standard becomes, the precedent becomes, if someone bothers Mauro, fire them. So the same thing happened with fucking, what's his face? Cucky Graves, right? Now, I don't like what's his name? Corey Graves. I don't like Corey Graves. I think he's a fucking loser. If you want my honest opinion, if I see that guy on the street, I'll be like, you're a fucking loser, man. Like, the word loser has never been more appropriate than for that neckbeard, right? He's just a skinny neckbeard. He has like a tiny little neck. Like, of course he was going to get injured wrestling. He's like 130 pounds. He's just a tiny man. But anyways, I digress. He commented online or whatever on Twitter while he was in. He's also a pussy because he does things, right? He does and says things, and he's like, "Oh, I was in character." Shut up, pussy. Just admit it, you know. Like if you have the balls, just be like, "Yeah, I did it. It was me." You know, I did it. I called you out. I said this. I said that. But he's like, "No, I was in character. I was playing a character." Yeah. Right? Shut up. Like, and it's one thing to do that. Like if you have like a huge gaffe, like if you say something like fucked up, and you're like, "Oh shit, I gotta hide behind my character," right? You say, "Oh, I did it in character." That's one thing. It's another thing when everything you do, you apologize for. If you're out there apologizing for things, you're a pussy, man. Or you're someone that's just doing a lot of things wrong. And either way, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and figure out what the fuck to do with it. You know? So anyways, that cuckold Mauro Ranallo got offended apparently. No one really said, right? Maybe he didn't get offended. But the story was that he got offended that Corey Graves pretty much said on Twitter that Mauro Ranallo just talks too much. Now, I understand. Beth Phoenix and fucking Nigel McGuinness are not exactly entertaining people. You know, they're not. Beth Phoenix was a great wrestler. Like, I liked her a lot because of her gimmick. But these people are not entertainers, right? So, yes, Mauro Ranallo should talk more, right? But even if I think he should talk more, someone else might have a different opinion. Someone like Corey Graves, who might think, yo, shut the fuck up for a second so we can hear what these other people think, right? And Corey Graves is also a commentator, so it makes sense, you know? Now, with all of this happening, everyone automatically, on instinct, I don't even think Mauro Ranallo spoke on it, but on instinct, everyone's like, fire Corey Graves. He made fun of a guy with bipolar. You don't know what it's like unless you have bipolar yourself, so you can't make fun of him. What? Yes, I can. How about go fuck yourself? How do you like them apples? You know what I mean? Now, of course, if someone has like a mental condition, right, you should be sensitive to that. Like, you shouldn't go to Mauro Ranallo and be like, hey, what's up, you bipolar fuck? Right? You shouldn't do that. That's fucked up, right? It's like going to a guy in a wheelchair and being like, hey, man, you have no legs, motherfucker, right? That's not cool. That's not nice. But if the guy in the wheelchair acts like an asshole, you can look at him and be like, you're a fucking asshole, dude. Right? Just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't exempt you from being an asshole. Just because you're white, black, Hispanic, gay, straight, fat, skinny, it doesn't exempt you from being a douchebag. All those groups have douchebags, and they all have good people, I'm sure. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the main key here, right? There's this idea that like the more oppressed you are, like, oh, he has bipolar, oh, he's like an old guy, oh, Corey Graves is like more handsome than him, oh, he's punching down, not punching up. Shut up, I'll punch wherever I want. How about that? How about get on my level so I can punch horizontally and then I can be allowed to make fun of you, right? So that's what I'm saying, man. There's this idea that being a pussy that complains is now appropriate. And all right, fine. We can even forgive Mauro. Like we can take that example as an example of a guy who, like, all right, maybe he didn't realize that moving from boxing, where he does like announcing of a real sport, to wrestling, the fans are like retarded. So like they might be like, oh, you know, like you suck, Mauro. They might be more critical on Twitter, and therefore people like Corey Graves might become more critical, etc. Right? He may have not realized it, and that's fine, right? Like it's whatever. You know, we can forgive Mauro because he's a pussy. Like he doesn't go around saying like, oh, I'm a tough guy. He goes around saying, I'm a pussy. Please cater to me. I'm a grown man who needs babysitting, basically, right? I would just fire Mauro Ranallo and get it over with, man. And put JBL back on commentary so we can actually hear some entertaining shit, right? Oh, instead of Mauro Ranallo, oh, mamma mia, acai moonsault, shut up, right? Fucking burden, fucking liability. Anyways, then to take the cake as far as wrestling goes, the young Cucks, motherfuckers, the young Cucks. These guys ruined everything. Right? Like, a lot of what's wrong with wrestling can be directly related to the Young Bucks. Oh, but Hater, I think it was Vince. Vince is out of touch, so I think Vince is the one that ruined wrestling, not the Young Bucks. No, I like them, yeah. No, you're wrong, motherfucker. It's definitely the Young Bucks. These guys have fucked it all up, right? They've ruined the super kick. They've ruined spot matches. They've ruined tag team wrestling. They've ruined wrestling as a whole with AEW. This is bullshit, right? And now they've retreated into their pussy cave, right? So if anyone that doesn't know, this is like a little old, so I'm sure everyone knows. The Young Cucks, right, apparently took a break off Twitter. And their father, Papa Buck, or whatever he calls himself on Twitter, he was like, oh, Nick and Matt have to like leave fucking Twitter because it's toxic and it's not doing good for them, you know? People are too critical on Twitter. Oh my God. These are supposed to be two athletes, man. Two people I look up to, right? I'm supposed to look up to these guys. You're supposed to be cool. But instead, you're scared that someone said your company is shit. Well, nobody showed them the videos of the hater motherfuckers, because these two guys might just throw themselves off a ladder and, you know what I'm saying, head first up in this bitch, right? Now, this is so wrong. There's so many things wrong with this, right? These guys do not want criticism. They really think that they have it figured out. People like them and Cody. I remember like a while back, Cody Rhodes got into like a Twitter feud with Daniel Cormier, right? Now, Daniel Cormier is like a fan. He's a fan of wrestling, right? And he's obviously like a tough guy. Like he would beat the shit out of Cody Rhodes, right? For those of you that don't know, Daniel Cormier is former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion in the UFC, right? So, and Daniel Cormier was cool about it. He just found a clip online of like some match. I think it was the Young Bucks, and he's like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Where's the actual?" He's like, "Where's the characters?" He made the same points that people like me make. Where, you know, he's like, "Where are the characters? Where's like this? Where's that?" Right? He's like, "All I see is a bunch of stupid flips." And then Cody Rhodes was like, "Well, stay in your lane, Cormier. Like, this is what's hip now, right?" And then Cormier's like, "Look, man, I'm a big fan, Cody. Yeah, I don't know why he's a fan of." He probably lied just to make Cody feel better, right? He's like, "I'm a big fan, Cody, but like, you need to watch your mouth." You know what I'm saying? Like, don't fucking talk to me like I'm like. Basically, Cody was talking to him as if Cormier was like a mark, right? Cormier is like a normal fan. He's like, "Yo, man, I like this, I like that. This is stupid." Cody's like, "Oh yeah, you're a mark. You don't know what you're talking about, Cormier. Why don't you just not watch instead?" And Cormier's like, "Yo, how about I beat the shit out of you within an inch of your life, you little twerp," right? And that's when I started, honestly, that's when I started liking Cormier. You know, he's like a really charming guy. I like Cormier a lot. But it's that clash, right? It's that idea that as soon as someone says something, Cody Rhodes is like, "No, you're wrong. I'm right. Young Bucks are cool and hot and attractive, and I like them in my bedroom." Right? That's the problem, right? It's like nobody can take any criticism. And there's two ways. If someone criticizes you, there's three things you can do. You can do what Cody and Young Bucks do, which is the adult equivalent of covering your ears and screaming, right? Or you can do the two things that are healthier, right? Healthy thing one, probably the healthiest one. Not what I would do, but the healthiest one probably, right? Which is sitting there and saying, "Look, guys, you know what? I'm taking your criticism under advisement, and thank you. Like, I don't like hearing it, but I appreciate that you're criticizing me because I can work on myself and get better." Now, that's a little gay. It's a little gay, but it's probably the best way to do it. Or you can do what I would do, which is if someone criticizes me, I'd be like, "You can go and fuck yourself. How do you like that?" You understand me? Now imagine for a second, right? Instead of the Young Bucks, imagine I'm not even gonna go as far as I plan on going yet. I'm gonna start by saying this. If this happened in 1998, right? If we had Twitter in 1998 and I don't know, fucking Tony Schiavone like said to, I don't know, he sent out a tweet saying like, you know, the Hardy Boys are a bunch of like pansy ass pussy wimps, right? Now, and also they can't wrestle, right? Now, could you imagine Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, who were like in their early 20s back then? Could you imagine them like being troubled to the point of like leaving Twitter if it existed? Could you even consider that possibility? No. Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy are actually what they say they are. They are these two like crazy dudes who jump off ladders with like Jeff Hardy with like zero regard to his health, man. He doesn't even jump in like an aesthetic way sometimes. He just jumps and falls like he doesn't know what he's doing almost, you know. That's a part of his charm. But imagine that for a second. You know what I mean? Just imagine it for a second. Imagine the Hardy Boys like doing that. No, the Hardy Boys are people that do drugs, get arrested, do like terrible things, right? And then come back like as if nothing happened. And they just introduce themselves again to the audience like, "Oh, I'm back. Oh yeah, I was in rehab for 30 days. They don't give a fuck, man." The Hardy Boys are like real ones. You know, somewhere down the line, it's been lost that the Hardy Boys are two rednecks. They're two real ones, motherfuckers, right? And whereas the Young Bucks are just two California pussies, man. Nothing strong has come out of that state in like maybe ever, honestly. It's just a bunch of like weak men. You know, I'm sure, of course, there's a strong guy here and there. I'm not, obviously, right? But it's just weakly minded human beings, right? Who just run. When something happens, you just run the other way. Like I was in LA recently for a good friend's wedding. I mean, not that recently. It was like a year ago, I guess. Almost a year ago, right? Like 9 months ago, maybe, right? And I was there and I hadn't been to LA in a few years, you know? I used to love LA, man. Like back in the day, like the first time I went, I was like, to visit the same friend. after college, he moved there. We're like friends from back in the day. And like, I went there and I was like, oh my God, man. I'm like, you live in paradise, dude. He lives in like a nice apartment. The weather was perfect. He showed me around. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, what a wonderful city. And then I went like a few years ago and it was still good. Like, I didn't like it as much because I was like, you know, not as enamored because I wasn't like 22 or 21, wherever I was, right? But I was like, all right, this is nice, but like, you know, it's whatever, right? Then I went back like in February of last year. Oh my God, what a dump LA had become. What a complete shithole that it had become. One of my friends who I think was in denial. Like, he came down for the wedding too. He was like, oh, this is nice. I'd still live here. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't, motherfucker. Nobody would want to live here. This place is a shithole. But anyways, I digress. That was just my little LA rant. But the facts are what they are, right? California has produced a series of these types of people, right? And it's not just like the geographical California. It's more like Hollywood. It's more like the SJW culture. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's a congregation of things, right? It's a combination of a lot of cool things. So there you go. I don't even know what more can be said about these two guys, but I have a lot. I have a lot to say about the Young Bucks now, motherfuckers. Their willingness to just make it about themselves, right, is indicative of the greater problem within AEW, motherfuckers. They've used their clout, their political clout, if you will, right? Their position as whatever, executive vice Cucks, right? To sign wrestlers like Brandon Cutler, who will never draw a dime in his life, and only because he's friends with them. They have taken advantage of the fact that they have a position of power. They've Harvey Weinsteined it, basically, right? Through nepotism, they've signed people like that. Kenny Omega has signed his best friend, apparently, Michael Nakazawa. This is problematic, motherfuckers. This shows exactly that these people do not have what it takes. They're not strong enough to handle criticism, which means that there's no reason to think that the product will ever improve. They're not intelligent enough to sign good wrestlers instead of signing their friends. And most importantly, they don't have the cojones, I said, the cojones, motherfuckers, right? To stand up to anything. They might be fearless when jumping off a ladder in like a spot they've practiced a million times, but they're pussies, man. And there's no room for pussies, not just in wrestling, but in anything that wants to attract a wide male audience. And I don't mean wide in the same way that the smart beards are wide. I mean wide as in a vast audience, motherfucks. You understand me? So here we are. We find ourselves surrounded by Mauro Ranallos and Young Bucks. What a problem, huh? What can we do about this? This made me even hate the Dark Order segment, which I actually initially liked. And I still think as a segment it was alright. It's just that you can't really go back after seeing that viral clip of that jobber like punching Goldust in the head, but instead of punching him in the head, his fist was like a good 1.5 feet away from Goldust's face. Right? It looked so horrible. You can't really do that now, can you, motherfuckers? So what I have to say is things need to change. Things need to change, motherfuckers. This can't go on anymore. You cannot continue this kind of nonsense. You cannot allow people like Young Bucks and Mauro Ranallo to infiltrate and destroy your company from within with basically regulation, right? Can't say this, can't do that, can't pretend to do this, can't like this, can't like that, can't hate this, can't hate that. Well, the hater hates whoever the hater wants, motherfuckers. And that's what people want to do. People want freedom. That's what makes America so fucking great. Freedom, motherfuckers. Oh, but Canada has freedom. Not anymore, motherfuckers. Not anymore. Canada, which I love very much. Toronto, one of my favorite cities ever, honestly. You know, Toronto is like what people pretend New York City is. Yeah, which I like New York too, but people like New York, all these beautiful women. In Toronto, oh my God, man. I go there, it's like every girl is hot. I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, my cousin lives in Toronto, so I'm like, oh my God, man. Canada's got it going on, motherfuckers. But anyways, that's the point. The point is, in America, we have freedoms. We like freedom of speech, which you now don't really have anymore in Canada because you can be fined for calling someone like a transgender or some other bullshit like that, right? So, with this freedom, right, comes a lot of good business, a lot of good entertainment. Because if you do something and someone has the freedom to tell you it's fucking shit, tomorrow you'll think to yourself, oh, maybe I'll do something a little bit better. Maybe I'd like to do something that captures my current audience and the guy that told me it was a piece of shit. That's literally how growth happens in entertainment. That's like you take things made for children, like superheroes, right? Like I don't like superhero movies myself, right? Because it's for children, and I don't know how to explain it. I'm not attracted to it. I don't find it interesting anymore because I'm not a kid, right? But you take that shit, you chalk it up a little bit, you adult it up a bit, right? And then you make it palpable for adults. So they take their children with them. And then eventually you're like, oh, these adults seem to be looking forward to it more than the children. Oh, this neckbeard, this Star Wars geek now doesn't like Star Wars anymore. So he likes Avengers, right? It's the same shit, motherfuckers. If you're someone that's like obsessed with the Avengers, congratulations. Back in the day, you would be a Trekkie. You would be the kind of guy that puts a little like whatever Star Wars ears on, the pointy ears. You'd be that guy. That's where you are now. So that's the problem, right? They widen their audience, right? And they capture in bigger and bigger demographics, right? And that's why now the MCU is like one of the most successful franchises of all time in anything, right? Good for them. I respect that, right? The same thing is happening in wrestling. You need to capture wider audiences. And the best way to do that would be a tonal shift, right? Especially in wrestling, which is all about twists and turns, right? A tonal shift. Vince McMahon comes out and says, that's it. We're doing Attitude again, you know? I mean, I know he doesn't want to do that because clearly the news is out there now, motherfuckers. I think the writing's on the walls. I think what Vince wants to do is kind of like, of course he wants to operate WWE, but I think what he really wants is what he's wanted to do is for like the last 10 years or so is focus on making WWE a family-friendly organization. I don't just mean to their product, but like, you know, Make-A-Wish, all that other stuff. And then eventually he's going to sell it to fucking Disney, motherfuckers. The ultimate people in children's entertainment. He's going to sell it to them, if he's even allowed to at this point, because like Disney's growing a little bit too much. But that's another video for another time, motherfuckers. But if there was a way to get rid of the Mauro Ranallos and the Young Bucks and just and have men wrestle men and have men control this product geared towards men. And not just men, you can have women who aren't pussies, you know, obviously not every man is not a pussy. And of course there's tough women out there that like don't get offended at things. But if you're someone that gets offended at things, if you're the Young Bucks and you take a break from Twitter because if it's toxicity, we didn't have words like that, man. We didn't have words like that 15 years ago, or certainly not 20 years ago. Oh, toxicity. No, it's a very toxic environment. I don't like the way it makes me feel. Well, guess what, motherfucks? These are just people who have never been told. I don't give a fuck how you feel, man. What happened to that? I don't give a shit, Mauro Ranallo. Oh, he made me feel bad. Don't care. Quit your job, dog. Quit your job. Why does the fucking rest of the world have to cater to you? How about you cater to us? How about the people that are in the minority of people who are like, oh, offended? Just you cater to me, man. Don't be offended. Why do I have to stop saying quote unquote offensive shit? If most people find it funny, right? And two people find it offensive, why should I pander to these two people? No, motherfuckers. No, bitches. And that's what I'm saying about that, right? This pussification of humanity has gone way too far. It has gotten to the point now where if you say things like fat, like the word fat apparently is now offensive by itself. Like saying, oh, that's a fat person, which might not be offensive at all. It's like, oh, isn't that person kind of fat? Right? Oh, you pointed out to what's next? Short is gonna be offensive? Get the fuck out of here, man. It's gotten to a point now where people that like all you need to do is say, I'm oppressed, I'm offended, and people will bend to your will, right? I remember one time in college, there was this guy, right? He was one of those preacher types, and he came to talk to our university, right? Not in a formal way. He was pretty much outside the student union, just like talking, and he was saying how like being gay is a sin and all this other shit, right? This was back in the day. This might have been like 2008, right, when I was in undergrad, and he, what's it called? Yeah, and there was a lot of people that were protesting him. Even back then, like the wheels were turning. Like now, they would like kick him out of campus immediately, but back then the wheels were turning, right? Like there was a lot of SJW going on. Like I was like, all right, I'll listen to this guy. I don't really agree with him, I don't believe in God, so it is what it is. Like if you want to be gay, be gay. But I'll listen to him, I'll listen to anybody that has something to say that I find interesting, right? I want to learn, and I'll listen to the gay people too. And I'm sitting there, and like the guy starts explaining, he's like, yo, being gay is like this, is like that. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I'm getting bored now, time to go to class, right? And this student, this like LGBT student, he like yells at him. He was a boy. He was like, do you think people choose to be gay, you stupid motherfucker, right? And I'm just like, all right, first of all, ad hominem, right? The guy's not insulting you. He's just saying that what you're doing is taking you to hell. But whatever, it is what it is, right? And this guy was like, what? And then the student is like, yeah, do you think someone would choose to be gay, right? And then the guy's like, yeah, I do. I think someone would choose to be gay. And at that point, I'm like, all right, you're losing me, man. It's like I wouldn't say it's a choice, right? I mean, like the same way that I wouldn't say that my preference for vanilla ice cream is a choice, really. It's just like I like vanilla ice cream, So, but the guy, the priest guy, stuck to his ground. I'll never forget it because he was like, yeah, it's a choice. And then the student, like a reactionary retard, was like, well, why would anyone choose to be oppressed? And then the priest says, I'm choosing to be oppressed right now by you. I'm choosing to be here and have people point at me and make fun of me because sometimes you believe in something greater. Right? Because sometimes the oppression is worth it, is what the priest said. And then the student tried to clap back, and I had to turn around and say, dog, you just got to put in your place. You know what I mean? Like, logically, you just got to put in your place. Now, with that same philosophy, that same idea of sometimes it's good to be oppressed, we are now in a situation where it's always good to be oppressed. It's better to be oppressed than to be the oppressor. Because the roles have completely switched. Back in the day, the oppressor would be like, shut the fuck up, you're oppressed. And the oppressor would be like, oh, can't do anything about it. Now it's like now the oppressed just label themselves as, the oppressors label themselves as being oppressed first, and then they tell everybody else that they're horrible people. It's like I said, the haters put on some weight, motherfuckers. The haters working on losing his weight. Best believe it's gonna happen, right? I'm not out here saying like, oh, I'm proud to be overweight. No, this is good. No, motherfuckers. I'm gonna get back to boxing. I'm gonna do what I need to do, right? But these people, like, their strategy for me should be this. Make another YouTube channel where I complain and I say things like, oh, someone called me fat, but that wasn't very nice. Please, people, show me some pity. And then probably more than 262 subscribers would be like, oh, hater, like, that's so sad, man. This character would be called the lover, not the hater. He'd be like, oh, lover, that's so sad. Nobody should make fun of you. You're beautiful in all sizes. And then the lover would tie a fucking rope around his neck and jump out the balcony with a rope tied to his chair inside. You understand what I'm saying? What kind of a life is that, motherfuckers? How about live in the real world where if you're a pussy, I call you a pussy. And when you run a company like the Young Bucks have run AEW, you get called retards for it. And when you try to get people fired or stand by like a coward bitch like Mauro Ranallo, like people's jobs are being threatened, and my Mauro's like, for my mental health, I need to get away from Twitter. How about before you do that for your mental health, which I support, just say, hey man, shut up guys, don't fire Corey Graves. You just said a word, who cares? And then log off if you have if you're on that side. If you're on the side of fire Corey Graves, say that too. Or be a passive-aggressive bitch and be like, oh, like, I'll let my actions speak better than my words. What the fuck is wrong with the world, motherfuckers? And this pussification of society, part of that can also, this is going to be the last point, part of that can also be tied to the passive-aggressiveness that people now have. Right? Nobody now fucking says anything anymore. Everyone just communicates with passive-aggressive grunts and scowls and scoffs and I don't know, I gotta be here. It's just like that. Like you'll notice it. Now that I mention it, you'll notice this in your real lives. Well, you'll have that one friend who, like, instead of making a point, will roll his eyes. Right? He'll roll his eyes and he'll be like, like, believe that if you want. Instead of just being like, dude, you're being a retard. Right? Instead of being a friend, instead of being a normal person. You understand what I'm saying? This passive aggressiveness has found analogs on the internet. And the number one analog of passive aggressiveness on the internet, other than, of course, being passive aggressive on the internet, is signing off or whatever, deleting your account, doing that kind of shit, right? And being like, I need some time to myself. Like the implications there are this. Like when Papa Cuck over there goes on Twitter and says, Nick and Matt Jackson need some time away from this toxicity. What he's basically saying is this. Nick and Matt want you to think about them. They want to feel important, right? If people weren't celebrity obsessed like we are nowadays, if people didn't have these like ridiculous rules where it's like, oh, Scarlett Johansson and Ryan Reynolds are dating. Like I couldn't give a fuck who Scarlett Johansson's dating. I don't give a rat's ass about who Ryan Reynolds is dating, whether it be a guy or a girl. I couldn't give a shit. Don't care at all, man. But people care now. And in order for celebrities to feel like bigger celebrities, the best way to do it is to be passive aggressive and be like, oh, I'm going to take a break from social media. And then 3 people write articles about you, right? And those articles are always positive. It's always like, oh, they needed a mental break. Instead of people writing articles like, oh, Matt and Nick Jackson left social media. Great. Who the fuck needs them? These 2 little shits. Nobody gives a fuck about what they have to say on social media anyways. If the articles were those, they'd come back in a day, motherfuckers. They'd be like, oh, we're back. Better than ever. Like, I give a fuck about the Young Bucks, man. Get the fuck out of here. Who would do this, man? Can you imagine Stone Cold or The Rock, like, shying away from criticism? The Rock would be like, oh, if you think The Rock has 5 moves, The Rock will just lay at the smack it down on your candy ass with those 5 moves, right? He would flip it on you, right? Stone Cold would be like, I don't give a damn what you have to say. I'm Stone Cold. Stone Cold. What? Stone Cold. You know what I'm saying? But the Young Bucks, they don't have that banter ability. They don't have the capacity to talk and stand up for themselves. So what they do, they run away and they let SJW journalists stand up for them by being like, oh, the toxic culture of the internet has spread to wrestling and the Young Bucks are not being affected by it. We need to stop. We need to look at ourselves in the mirror before we say things that are critical, because criticisms hurt, motherfuckers. Criticisms hurt, guys. They hurt. Words hurt. Oh, criticisms. Get the fuck out of here. There's an agenda, motherfuckers. And the agenda is to control us in various ways. I read this morning that Donald Trump has been removed, motherfuckers, from the Canadian broadcast version of Home Alone 2, where he has a cameo. They removed Donald Trump from a movie from the fucking, like, I think 80s or whatever the fuck it was, maybe early 90s, right? From a movie from back in the day. They removed him. They took out Donald Trump, who plays a character, basically, plays himself in the movie. They removed him because, and the justification is people want to be triggered. No, motherfuckers. They remove him so you don't think about him. They remove him so you don't, like, think, oh, wow, isn't he cool? He was in Home Alone. He's kind of cool, right? Because if you think he's cool, you might read up about him. And you might be like, oh, the American economy, because of deregulation, is doing super well. Right? And you're like, oh, maybe we should vote, like in Canada, I'd say, maybe we should vote for a conservative instead of that cuckold Justin Trudeau, that racist. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying, right? They take it away, and instead of feeding you that, they'll feed you like bullshit like Cory Booker and Justin Trudeau and these cuckold, these like beta male nobodies, right? Instead of showing you a masculine person, right, who was in a movie that's unrelated to his political career, right? It's ridiculous to me, man. Go fuck yourselves, dog. Fuck yourselves with all the censorship type bullshit. And for anyone that says, oh, freedom of speech, if a network has the capacity to manipulate a movie, to control your pattern of thinking about that movie, which is exactly what this is, right? You are not living in a free, quote unquote, society, motherfuckers. How about it's like this? The person made the movie, here it is. Do you want to show it? Yes, because I like the movie. Do you want to show it? No, I don't, because Trump is in it. Then don't fucking show it. But don't pick and choose. Don't cut things out to fit your narrative and your agenda. Because in the movie, Donald Trump has like a cameo of like a cool guy who pretty much gives directions to what's his face, to I forget his name, Macaulay Culkin. I forget his name in the movie, but whatever, Kevin. Yeah, like, you know, he gives directions to him, and it's like a moment where he's like, wow, Donald Trump, you know, like and like he's presented as like a cool cat. But no, you can't have it on Canadian TV. Canadian TV, you'd rather have like bullshit like Justin Trudeau being like, oh, we don't say mankind, we say humankind now. Like anyone that is attracted by that, by the distinction between mankind and humankind, is retarded. If you think, oh, you're right, we should say humankind, you were retarded. I'm sorry to tell you. You're not a smart person. You're a puppet sheep, right? And if you're a woman who is offended by mankind, you are also retarded. If you are a man who thinks mankind has anything to do with men specifically as opposed to women, you're also retarded, motherfuckers. So this pussification, this ruining of our culture has gone too far in and out of wrestling. And with that, motherfuckers, I will say goodbye for now. There might be another video today, but I'm not sure about.